working with the government of United Republic of Tanzania and the revolutionary government of Zanzibar through our two ministry of trade, responsible for trade and industrial development, respectively, from the various agencies, including the Tanzania Industrial Research Development Organization, TIRDO, for decades on research, with the focus on the textiles, sisal, livestock, seaweed, spices, and horticulture, as well as on the quality management to enhance the competitiveness. I am pleased to inform you that this cooperation is still ongoing and is set to continue for the foreseeable future in Ireland and the European Union through its then TRADCOM programs and the United Kingdom's Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office for support. Other ones that spill over, including vision through trade and industrial development. Several other partners, which include PLC, Trademark Africa, TAHA, and SACOT. The ministry continued to work with this resourceful group in various endeavors to improve the value chain, to streamline trade standards and the transparency, regional and international trade for national development. Our two ministries responsible for industries and trade will continue to promote such inclusive partnership in the pursuit of national development vision and the desire of Tanzania to be an important player in regional trade and economic cooperation with other countries in Africa and the spirit of African continental free trade area. Honorable guest of honor, before concluding to the efforts of both the development to the people of Tanzania. Lastly, but not in the order of importance, I would like to thank IALA and the EAC management for agreeing to host this workshop and the regional administration here in Arusha for ensuring the safety and enjoyable conditions to, that is what it means by warmly welcoming you. I think I have warmed the room and I've prepared you well now to address.
Minister for Trade. trade development from the Revolutionary Government of Zanzibar, Africa Legislative Assembly, Your Excellency Tontin, your name is always very complicated, Ambassador of Norway, Ambassador and the head of Mission International Organization, the Minister of Industry, Mr. Elbarik Sami, Dr. Geoffrey Issues, Chief Executive Officer of Sagot Center, Dr. Jacqueline Mkindi, Chief Executive Officer of Tanzania Horticulture Association, Institution and Leader of Delegation, distinguished speakers, panelists, and invited participants, members from media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again.
Good morning.
I am truly honored to be here with you today. And I want to thank you for invitation. And thank you for sharing this moment to officiate the reporters and the Partners 28 Annual Research Workshop under the theme, Pursuit for Sustainable Growth and Trade Expansion. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Poa and partner for the wonderful, brilliant idea for making this forum so possible here in Arusha, for making this event so exceptional. My proudest with us and told these stories and the idea for the brighter future of Africa. It's humbling for me to speak today in the presence of East African member states, other regional economic communities, Pan-Africa Trade Regulatory Organization, international organization, and the private sector around Africa. On behalf of the government of United Republic of Tanzania, it's indeed a great honor for me to bring to you a greeting salutation from the government of the people of United Republic of Tanzania, and welcome you to this beautiful city of Arusha, the headquarters of East Africa Community and the Geneva of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, this research workshop will provide a unique opportunity for researchers and different stakeholders present to interact and share valuable business and economic information. This workshop is about sharing knowledge, experience, and success stories. It's about building new connection. It's about shared future of current generation to come of our children and their grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, as you look to Africa, Africa is a continent of more than 1.4 billion people. The continent of food abundant for natural resources, including minerals, water bodies, soil, and natural gases. The continent with full of attraction. Above all, Africa is the continent for many promising young generation for economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, for the Africa to grow socially and economically, research and development is one of the key factors. I thank the Poa and partner for doing a lot of research and development in our country. It's obvious working alongside people, analyzers, as well as negotiators for economic growth and poverty alleviation. We, government, commended the Poa and partner for an extraordinary work and the ability, as anyone can testify, the value and nobility of research contribution to the prosperity of our nation and Africa as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I know the Poa and partner have never turned down any research assignment, no matter how difficult and complicated the situation by handling one impossible task after another for the prosperity of Africa. I know research is not an academic institution. LEPO is not an academic institution. Skills and experience and the Middle East crisis, which leads to thousands of deaths and millions of people displaced from their homes. I strongly believe research institutions, development partners, and international organizations have responsibility to find the solution for the existing challenges. I know strong institutions help others to rise up independently. I believe you will keep working effectively and passionately for the nation and for the continent of Africa. I commend LEPO and its partner for their support to the government of Tanzania to the transformation of its economy through modernization of key drivers and enablers of sustainable growth, economic growth through trade, tourism, manufacturing, agriculture, and aquaculture. Ladies and gentlemen, for the purpose of achieving its goal on productive capacity and expansion of trade, the implementation, which include, among others, the education and the training policies of 2023, Investment Act 2021 to 2026, the National Environmental Management Master Plan for strategic interventions we need a free trade area, EU market, AGOA market, and other market opportunity for sustainable growth and expansion. Above all, we need to expand our production beyond traditional way to the value-added products with a high profit margin and to strengthen our supply chain. I want to let you know, in less than 7 years to come, the Sustainable Development Goal period will end. Made so far on the global goal. From the economy of Tanzania has with some decline during the World Bank reclarification of Tanzania. $5.7 billion export to SADC region with a combined value of $2.8 billion. The government of United Republic of Tanzania and the airport, the establishment of airline country of Burundi, Rwanda, and the DRC Congo, for the adequate energy supply, the government of United Republic of Tanzania Tanzania, the government of Tanzania has continued to expand and have been made on dispensaries, health centers, and hospitals. Availability of medicine and medical equipment have significantly improved, and the livelihood of its people through clean water, clean and safe water provision, modernization of agriculture sector, livestock and fisheries sector by allocating of production to modern methods. Ladies and gentlemen, the above report itself, other of Global South policy and development strategies that touch in this regard. I therefore bank Trademark Africa expectation that you will continue to respond to the growth path. The practice of strengthening collaboration, rapport and partner to conduct more research and continue to share research findings for the benefits of trade expansion, economic growth, and for public and private sector on how effective utilization of market opportunity available on Africa Continental Free Trade Area. EAC SADC Commercial Tripartite Agreement, EU market, AGOA market, and the other market opportunity. I urge credible, highly valuable change mitigation commitments toward greener growth. Five, I would love to know what do you see and how these obstacles can be overcome. Six, I would like to know under what condition can Tanzania and the Africa in the involved. Regional and global to know how can our Africa countries, government partners continue support rapport and its commitment to continue implementing Tanzania reaffirm its commitment We are fair. Ladies and gentlemen, our tourist destination area includes Vashini area, Mount Kilimanjaro. Ladies and gentlemen, it's you constructive dialogue and
Another round of applause. We thank you for your remarks. You have to take a verse from. So may I now take this opportunity, the executive to give her key.
Good morning, and thank you so much for the introduction. I didn't mean to make such an honourable. It's a great honour to be with you today and tomorrow for this extremely important workshop. I'm very pleased. The evidence of the to share with you extremely important, a comprehensive free nation. And it is in this context that I would like to take a look at the theme of the conference, sustainable expected to create trade. Expected to create trade. So we expect intra-Africa trade to be boosted, and very limited. Intra-Africa trade to be boosted, and very limited. It means also that if we disaggregate that trade data, we find that, as we know, we are to extremely high. We find that, as we know, we are to extremely high costs of doing business. In fact, some years ago, when the AfCFTA was announced, we did some work at Tralec to tariffs all import AfCFTA was announced, we did some work at TRELEC to tariffs. All import duties on the continent were eliminated. And we compared that and a lot of research in a 21st industrial policy connection. Where one of the areas, the issue of subsidies, particularly government, is not an equal. Countries are disadvantaged. These are important challenges for free trade area. also a very pragmatic and nature. And already, we have seen the addition of a protocol on digital trade. Very briefly, some of the connections of this AFCFTA agenda to our structural transformation ambition. And incentivize or reduced, we can source inputs from neighboring countries or even further afield on the continent. Free trade area, there are 4. Facilitation is not just about facilitating cross-border trade, but facilitating industrialization through cross-border link, improving transparency and good governance at border posts, supports timely access to the standards agenda. There are 2 annexes on sanitary and phytosanitary issues and technical barriers to trade. Ladies and gentlemen, standards are the new frontier of barriers to trade. Standards have legitimate public policy objectives, but they are also critical to developing competitiveness. Through certification and meeting quality standards which provide assurance to the consumers or the users of those products. The services agenda, I think this is particularly important. Goods don't move on their own. And most of the economies on the continent are in fact services intensive. Services can be traded, and as a result of technology and digital, the creative economy on the continent is thriving and waiting for opportunities to expand and to deliver not only on the continent but globally. But services are also about trade facilitation, about transport, logistics, communication, financial services, access to the trade finance that we heard about earlier today. But services are regulatory intensive. It's important to note that there is an agenda for cooperation on regulations. I would say we need to go a step further. And I'll give you one example as to why this is the case. In transport regulations, axle load limits the carrying capacity, the loads that we can carry across our borders. We may find in some regions these are not harmonized. Ladies and gentlemen, no amount of cooperation will make 30 tons equal 40 tons if those are the axle loads on either side of the border post. But let's briefly, in the last few minutes, take a look at some of the other important protocols from an industrialization perspective. The investment protocol. This focuses on intra-African investment to promote, protect, and support cross-border investment. But it also includes an investment facilitation agenda. The reality is we need investment not only from the continent, but also from global sources. And investment facilitation improvements in governance, transparency about, for example, license applications which may be necessary to establish a commercial presence, will apply equally to all investors in the Protocol on Investment is agree to promote investment in renewables, transforming to green energy. Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves in a situation where energy crises are still common across the continent. Energy security is a foundation for any business, for trade facilitation. So this is important to think about what are the prospects. Can you imagine if all our border posts, one-stop border posts, single windows, were solar powered? We could be digitizing our border processes with such energy security. The competition protocol, ladies and gentlemen, is necessary, particularly to ensure a level play for this community of enterprises. We will not achieve an inclusive, sustainable outcome. Most of our enterprises fall in this category. Big businesses don't need our support. They will appoint a consultant who will solve the problems they have. SMMEs don't have that. Consumer protection, in my view, is not adequately covered in the AFCFTA. And this is an area which is increasingly important, often linked to competition policy, but there are a few references, but simply I think we could do better. Intellectual property rights, the protocol, this is essential for industrialization. Realization are all extreme, which is relevant, accessible to African enterprises and individuals. Individuals in the digital space who often create source code, for example. How do they protect that intellectual capital? The reality is that many innovations on the continent never reach commercialization. So funding research development through the entire value chain to commercialization, extremely important, but also support to protect intellectual property generated on the continent. Property is protected, for example, in the United Kingdom. Many other important innovations, traditional knowledge is also protected internationally, but not yet on the continent. The digital protocol, ladies and gentlemen, this opens a new reality in terms of trade governance on the continent. We are currently working on the annexes to this protocol. This is where the detail is about data protection, consumer protection, cybersecurity, about digital innovation, access to data, information. This could be, I think, a game changer. It's important for all of us, but particularly for Africa's youth. Tanzania has become a well-known hub for coding and digital innovation. It's not yet well recognized across the continent, but certainly a great deal of very important innovation in this area, right where we are today. The Women and Youth Protocol, and I think this is a particularly important one if we want an inclusive AFCFTA. As Ambassador Tinnes reminded us, it's not only the right thing to do, it makes economic sense. if more than half the population does not have access, fair access to economic opportunities. We are limiting the research agenda that we have at the Trade Law Centre, and as a fellow researcher, some of our experience on trade policy. And the issue relates to a gendered value chain analysis in the AFCFTA that we've been. Value chain databases, UNIDO, UNCTAD, and other organizations publish databases. Pfizer. But very important, trade data and value chain data does not trade data. And value chain data, we were quite limited in what we could do to understand where women's potential lies. So we had to supplement this with access to further level data. And of course, the World Bank Enterprise Database is the way to find out is to ask them. So we've done a survey so far across 21 African countries to be in value chains and what is holding them back. Now, some of the findings resonate with what we see in many other research. The constraints are well known. Access to finance, always working capital. It's about trade finance. It's about insurance, about a range of manifestations of finance, which still, in most cases, are access to, or access is available only through traditional forms of collateral. So a small-scale woman trader trading across from Tanzania to neighboring countries who has on her mobile phone, her entire capital on her phone. Is this not collateral? Border posts void border posts. Ladies and gentlemen, running enormous risks in so doing. But what we found, the value chain, in other words, diversifying their economic activities in the value chain, but were limited by, for example, access to women-led businesses with their, in many of the sub-regions on the continent, were aiming to improve their contacts on on the continent. They wanted to engage and wanted to join the FDA. Agenda emerging from our discussion today and tomorrow, extremely important. It comes at not only a space of opportunity to improve the collective prospects for all of us on the continent. And I look very much forward to engaging with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Trudy Hardinsberg. As one of our keynote speakers. She is the Executive Secretary General, Department of Caribbean and Pacific States. Karibu sana, Mr. Lodge.
Thank you very much, and great to be here. Honorable ministers, excellencies, parliamentarians, panelists, distinguished researchers, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor and privilege that I stand here today representing the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. At the outset, let me just register that there is, in a sense, a link that has emerged. One where I connect Ireland, the Sridhar Ramphal Center. I see the representative, Alicia, here, being in Tanzania. And the link is this: of countries came together because they recognized that the trade and development preferences that were awarded by the United Kingdom, also another country that acceded to the European Union in 1973, needed to be extended beyond the former colonies of France, Italy, and Belgium. And so one of the initiatives that was actually launched by Sir Sridhar Ramphal, who sadly passed away earlier this year, was bringing together countries such as those in the Caribbean and Africa to form the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. And one of the leaders of that was indeed your founding father, Julius Nyerere. So in a sense, you, as rapport, you're facilitating these connections and linkages, and I'm indeed most grateful for that. I applaud Rapport for organizing this 28th edition of its annual research workshop. That in itself is a most commendable feat and attests to the organization's vision, perseverance, and leadership. In today's rapidly changing geopolitical landscape, resulting in a nascent formation of new alliances and multipolar blocs, coupled with the secular persistence of trade and development challenges, the guidance of research bodies such as Rapport and others assembled in this room, TRALAC included, and SRC, is needed more than ever. And indeed, let me also applaud Tanzania for its leadership, continued leadership within the OACPS. Earlier this year, we assembled in Dar es Salaam in September for the meeting of ministers of fisheries. And there we concluded some major policy initiatives. So again, our gratitude to the United Republic of Tanzania. This annual workshop, research workshop, is titled In Pursuit of Sustained Growth and Trade Expansion. Reference to pursuit in the title, in this title suggests that economic growth has remained elusive and new impulses are required. Therefore, this forum is timely to collectively reflect analyze, and strategize on a shared goal that is close to the heart of Africa's future: sustainable trade and economic growth. I will seek to frame the challenge by offering a few key data points. For example, Sub-Saharan Africa accounted for 16% of the world's population in 2024, but 67% of its people living in extreme poverty. Two-thirds of the world's population experiencing extreme poverty live in Sub-Saharan Africa, rising to three-quarters when including all fragile and conflict-affected countries. The persistence of extreme poverty in Africa comes in spite of continental economic growth averaging 3.5% during the period 2018 to 2023. Abundant natural resources and increased integration into regional and global value chains, the continent has the potential to earnestly boost its economic performance. The OECPS firmly believes that Africa's future prosperity lies not only in harnessing its resources, but also in advancing sustainable trade practices and inclusive growth. This requires aligning our economic ambitions with global agenda for sustainability and development of resilient economies. Let me expand on this important task by highlighting four key elements that are critical to achieving these goals: empowering human capital and developing a global partnership for African trade competitiveness. Achievement for the continent. It offers the potential to boost intra-African trade, reduce dependence on external markets, and create a more diversified mentioned, around 60, potentially create a market of 1.4. If you were to aggregate that or compare that to all the global economies, that would make the African continent the sixth. That context. A World Bank study notes that an effectively implemented African continental FTA would potentially lift of up to 4 continental free trade area constitutes a significant step towards unlocking the full potential of African markets. But the journey is just beginning. Green energy showing significant promise. To reap the full benefits of the African continental free trade area, enhance infrastructure and improve regional connectivity. Most notably, trade facilitation, through the promotion of digital solutions to reduce transaction costs and open new opportunities for African entrepreneurs. We salute the efforts of the RECs, the regional economic communities, that support the delivery of essential infrastructure such as roads, railways, and energy networks, all required for the smooth implementation of the African continental free trade area. However, specific mention is made of the cross-border infrastructure projects such as the Northern Corridor in East Africa, connecting landlocked countries to ports in Kenya, the Trans-African Highway Network involving SADC and ECOWAS, the Lobito Corridor, linking DRC with Angola, but they urgently need to be scaled up. Africa's wealth of renewable value chains. However, the key to long-term economic growth lies in moving beyond the being mere exporters of raw materials. Currently, Africa accounts for 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land, and agriculture remains a key driver of its economy, contributing to 14% of GDP. Yet African countries continue to face challenges in moving up the value chain. For instance, although the continent is a major producer of raw cocoa, it accounts for less than 5% of the global chocolate market, highlighting the need for value addition and industrial diversification. The more compelling case for moving up the value chain is provided by critical raw materials. Rather delighted that the Norwegian ambassador mentioned that, and this was actually the workshop where one learns use of critical raw materials. Here, with respect to critical raw materials, one immediately sees the paradox of Africa. The continent has considerable mineral wealth, particularly in inputs required for the green and digital transition. So, for example, Africa accounts for 91% of the global production of rhodium, 82% of platinum, 78% of cobalt, 62.5% of tantalum, 61% of manganese, 57% of chromium, and commodity dependence. The UNCTAD Trade and Development commodity dependent. This paradox is best exemplified by DRC, the country with 70% of global production of cobalt and yet remains an LDC. Sorry, 1,500% by 2050. The demand for lithium used in electric vehicles, batteries, and energy storage is expected to increase 12-fold by 2030 and increase 89-fold by 12-fold by 2030 and 89-fold by 2050. It is in this context that we at the OECPS crafted a position paper on critical raw materials. And we recognize the imperative that the secular demand for critical raw materials should not herald another commodity rush in Africa. Commodity dependence essentially means we are failing to adequately capture value from our resources and reduce the persistent underdevelopment. Hence, the challenge of this position paper is the internalization that critical raw materials are value chains with linkages to various other sectors in the economy, mostly renewable energy, health, education, skills training, electrification, feedstocks for agriculture, and institutional support. Africa's lithium holdings, resulting in the production of lithium-based batteries that serve to deliver electricity to towns and villages via mini-grids. Another example of the literal power of viewing critical raw materials comes from recognition that any thrust towards industrialization requires sustainable, cost-effective, and reliable power generation. IRENA estimates Africa's renewable energy potential at over 10 terawatts of solar power, 350 gigawatts of hydroelectric energy, 10 gigawatts of wind, and more than 20 gigawatts of geothermal power. As Carlos Lopez recently advised, This massive potential in renewable energy could also spur the manufacture of green hydrogen and in turn green ammonia and ultimately green carbon fertilizers that can fuel the food supply chains. Circular economy. By incorporating environmentally sound practices into African production processes, natural resources are protected, but also competitive advantage can be leveraged in a global marketplace marked by increasing demand for sustainable goods and services. By investing in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and responsible mining, we can build resilient economies that withstand global market shocks while creating decent jobs for our people. Public-private partnerships will create a crucial role in this transformation. We must continue to foster innovation, invest in local content development, and encourage responsible entrepreneurship that prioritizes environmental and social governance principles. Additionally, strengthening our small and medium-sized enterprises and connecting them to regional and global markets will ensure that the benefits are true. Trade is increasingly characterized by services that are embedded in merchandise goods. It's a term that we call servification. One valuable example of this phenomenon was cited in the 2015 African Competitiveness Report that claimed that 83% of the value of Ethiopian roses sold in the Netherlands are services. 83% of the value of a physical product are actually services. And therefore, I invite you moving merchandise goods. Important that is, but I think we also need to develop the regulators and, of course, develop primary backbone services such as banking, insurance, electricity distribution, and telecommunication to boost trade competitiveness. Let me swiftly turn to the third area, which is empowering Africa's human capital. The potential for innovation and entrepreneurship is immense. The continent's labor force is expected to surpass 1 billion by 2035, making it larger than China's and India's combined. However, for African economies to thrive, gaps in education, skills development, and access to capital, placing it at over 40% in some countries. This gap highlights compete in the education service. Sustainable research bodies such as Rapport should review the results of the Africa-Europe Alliance for Investment and Jobs. This initiative, launched in 2018 under the Juncker presidency of the European Commission, reflects the bloc's flagship policy initiative to the then emerging migration crisis. Key elements of that initiative were promoting African skills development, strengthen dialogue and cooperation with African partners on business and investment FTA, building on existing trade. Intra-African continent, enhancing intra-African connectivity and strategic linkages between Africa and the EU. Sorry, 44 billion euros in investment by 2020. Has this materialized? And if so, what lessons can be distilled? Donald Amari, empowering young people, sources of entrepreneurship and dynamism. Women in Africa remain underrepresented in the formal economy, providing support services such as access to creche and care facilities and removing. The fourth area in a global partnership for trade competitiveness. The OECPS remains proud of its long-standing relationship and partnership with the European Union. In essence, a two-tiered legal construct has emerged, one where priorities and approaches are enumerated at the all-ACP level. Clear articulation in the African Regional Protocol. The economies, extractive industries and processing, digital economy, and tourism. Means crafting flanking measures and support intervention, supporting business development, skills training in implementing the African Regional Protocol. And this policy framework article, and here criticality revised. One key plank of this concluded with DRC, Namibia, Rwanda, and Zambia to secure access to critical raw materials. We posit the view that these strategic partnerships constitute a coherent and synergetic approach to trade partnership worth replicating to the EU Global Gateway, launching these EU strategic. These are cooperation to advance and facilitate transfer of technology and capacity building to enforce regulatory capacity. convergence. It's about, however, it might be worth a concrete means of supporting that of strengthening our preferences. Presentation at the UNCTAD Trade and the following proposals. This in terms of complementing environment, administer business, effective consultative mechanisms towards good. And the mark I would recommend developing countries access to important member of GSPs primarily. These of the much needed trade and development. Future of Africa is glorious and partnerships at every level and prosperity of the continent. Let us remain work alongside government for Africa. Together, we can turn this vision.
Thank you to Mr. Junior Lodge for that keynote at the high table. For your patience and attention. We'll be taking a break shortly. Wikipedia of the
Manjafo, Minister of Industry, ambassadors, and also the leadership from various institutions here, include particularly ladies and gentlemen, many of you would expect encyclopedia to be a book in the agricultural sector, coming from SALCOT. And my duty right now, conscious of the fact that I'm standing between the morning session and the tea break. I'll be very brief. To continuous commitment of the government of Tanzania in support to the work that REPOA is doing. And beyond continent from the various recognize the support that this has, particularly the countries of Norway, including Denmark that have been decision making. You'll agree with me, it is required now, is increasingly becoming relevant. See, mentioning Dr. Mkindi, but also the speech and the contribution from my brother El Bariki here from Trademark Africa. And now here I'll mention two keynote speakers, my brother Junior Lodge Port. And it is full. And in addition to that, the speeches that we have had from the leadership, particularly from the minister, will definitely be basis for further research and see how we can internalize that. And domesticate that knowledge in order to allow Tanzania and East Africa to be competitive. The message from Ambassador, recognizing the reforms that have taken place, but also the challenges that are still available in the areas of business environment. For us who are coming from the agricultural sector, we know Tanzania Zambia and Mozambique globally, which is in Africa, to sit, deliberate, and agree, and then afterwards we go and walk the talk. I conclude my presentation. That many of you might not be knowing what SACCOT is. SACCOT is actually an area within Tanzania, and my institution is facilitating that area, which is a breadbasket region for Tanzania. What we have done in SACCO, together with many, 3 corridors of Tanzania. So maybe the agricultural to the Eastern African regions. So I thank you, report. Great work that is continuing in transforming our economies and our sectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirenga, for the vote of thanks of the Secretariat building. We will have ushers from EALA as well as REPOA to direct you all. And I've been informed also it in the marquees that are set up outside, but some of us, some of our dignitaries will be directed another station there. For the break. Before we get out, I would like to also inform you that immediately after, it's supposed to be 15 minutes, but hopefully we could do. We'll have our first plenary right here, Secretary of the East African Business Council, Ms. Flavian Busingye, from the EAC, Director of Customs. Culture Exporters Association, Do Investment, Kigali Heights, Alicia Nichols, Junior Trade Research Fellow.